Have you ever experienced the need to put a mask on? Not the masks that we wore in COVID, but a mask that prevented you from being who you wanted to be. I have been thinking a lot about the episode I did with Avery and seeing behaviors of students that I've been working with where I'm pretty sure that they are wearing masks to hide vulnerability and fears. In this solo episode, I'm going to explore what it means to wear a mask for our teens, maybe for parents, and maybe for teachers, and how we might take those figurative masks off to allow us opportunities to grow and blossom.
Welcome to the podcast Education Unimagined, where we give students an opportunity to share their voice in a system where often their voice is unheard. I ask them to share their experience and advice on how we can improve the experience for everyone.
Teens are often navigating expectations from their peers, teachers, and their parents. And sometimes it can feel like we need or are putting on a mask to fit in or to avoid judgment. But in this world where authenticity is discussed a lot on social media and the desire to be authentic, where does that come in a world where conformity seems to be the norm? Let's first start talking about the literal masks. When we were in the pandemic, many of us had masks on to protect ourselves and others. And now we'll see some people occasionally wearing masks. While they serve an important purpose, it can also be and feel like a barrier. Do you remember wearing masks and having a hard time interpreting other people's expressions? Our voices being muffled, but just because our faces are covered doesn't mean we can't still be seen and heard. Figurative masks, on the other hand, are much more difficult to navigate. These are the masks we put on to hide our insecurities, our fears, or even our true identities. Maybe an individual feels pressured to act a certain way to fit in with a particular group, or perhaps you're afraid to speak up for fear of being judged. This happens so often for our teens. And if you're listening and you're not a teen, I'm sure you can jump back into your experience of being a teenager and doing whatever it took to fit in, to not stand out. But here's the thing, wearing that figurative mask might help us blend in temporarily, but it also prevents us from fully embracing who we are. And when we hide behind these masks, we not only betray ourselves, but also miss out on the opportunity to truly connect with others authentically. I know that there's a lot of self-hatred for the person I was as a teenager. I think about how I would apologize for things I didn't do just to get back into the inner circle of my friends. How I would say yes to things I definitely did not want to say yes to just because I thought it would afford me connection. And I see teens now looking for that connection in so many places and doing things that they would definitely not do if they could really see that they had a choice. So how do we start to shed these masks and show up as our true selves? It starts with self-awareness and self-acceptance. And as teens, those two things are some of the hardest qualities that we have to embrace. The first thing would be to take some time to reflect on what your values are, what your passions are, and what your goals are. What makes you unique? See that as a value added to your life, to the life around you, to the people you interact with. Do not hide the things that make you unique, because in a world where so much sameness exists, uniqueness can bring you connected to others who embrace their uniqueness. What brings you joy? Embrace all of those aspects of yourself, especially and even if they don't fit the mold of what society expects. The challenge as a teen is that you don't have the experience that we have as adults. And you will often hear the adults tell you being different is okay, is the way to go. But often I challenge the adults. How often do you find yourself conforming? I know that I have to resist that often. So once you embrace the things that make you different, next, surround yourself with people who accept you for who you are, masks and all, whether it's friends, families, mentors, a support system that can make all the difference in helping you feel that confidence to allow your true self to shine. Lastly, remember, it is absolutely okay to be vulnerable. Opening up about your struggles and insecurities most definitely is scary, but it can also be incredibly freeing when we allow ourselves to be seen in our entirety, flaws and all. We give others permission to do the same. I can't emphasize that enough. When you take the opportunity to be vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. And vulnerability is where connection is created. When we all put up our guards and we wear our masks, it's impossible to connect. So if you're out there struggling to find your place in the world, know you are not alone. You are worthy of self-awareness and self-acceptance. You are worthy of belonging just as you are. Keep shining, because the world needs to see your brightness, your uniqueness, now more than ever. And if you see someone else standing in the power of their uniqueness, stand next to them, lift them up. We can all rise together. Thank you for listening to another episode of Education Unimagined, where we take the voices of students who are often silenced in the system of education and amplify them. If you're a parent or an educator and you want to help develop leadership skills for students that you work with, join my free Facebook group, Leadership for Our Kids. If you haven't already, please follow the podcast and leave a review. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone.
The theme music for this podcast, Unimagined, was written and produced by another fellow educator, Keith McClendon.
If we free the door of our locks, imagine what they could do. When we clear the floor of the obstacles, imagine what they will do. I know you can imagine too. I know you can imagine too.